Imagine hearing that a murderer was only 10 years old. Not 18, not 16. A child. Most people think of childhood as a time of innocence, playgrounds, and schoolyards. But throughout history, there have been shocking cases where children committed crimes so brutal that they left entire nations stunned. From two young boys whose crime horrified the world, these cases continue to raise disturbing questions. How does a child become a killer? Were they born evil or created by the world around them? Today, we're counting down 5 of the most notorious child killers ever documented. Some of these stories are so unbelievable that they sound like fiction, but every one of them is real. Let's begin. Jesse Pomeroy, United States. Long before modern true crime existed, one boy terrified an entire city. At just 12 years old, Jesse Pomeroy began committing acts so disturbing that newspapers gave him a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life: the boy torturer. Within 2 years, he would become one of the youngest serial killers in American history. Jesse Harding Pomeroy was born in Massachusetts in 1859. He became infamous as one of the youngest serial killers in American history. He was nicknamed the boy torturer by newspapers of the time. At age 12, Pomeroy began luring younger boys to isolated locations. He would physically assault them and subject them to severe abuse. Several victims survived and later identified him. In 1872, he was arrested and sent to a juvenile reform school. Despite concerns about his behavior, he was released after serving only about 18 months. Lionel Tate, United States, 1999. At just 12 years old, Lionel Tate became one of the youngest people in American history to receive a life sentence without parole. His defense claimed it was a tragic accident inspired by professional wrestling. Prosecutors called it murder. The case would ignite a national debate over whether a child could truly deserve a punishment meant for adults. Lionel Tate was a 12-year-old boy from Florida. Before the case, he had no significant criminal record and was known as an active child who enjoyed sports, especially wrestling. On July 28, 1999, Lionel was left to supervise 6-year-old Tiffany Eunuch while her mother was babysitting him. Tiffany suffered severe injuries and died. Medical experts testified that the injuries were extensive and consistent with a violent assault. Lionel claimed he had been imitating moves he had seen on professional wrestling television programs. He said he did not intend to kill Tiffany. Prosecutors argued the injuries were too severe to have been caused by simple play. In 2001, Lionel was convicted of first-degree murder. Because Florida law at the time gave juries limited options, he received a life sentence without parole. At age 13, he became one of the youngest Americans ever sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The sentence sparked widespread debate across the United States. Many people believed the punishment was excessively harsh for a child. Others argued that the severity of the crime justified a severe sentence. In 2003, an appeals court overturned the conviction. Lionel later accepted a plea agreement and was released under supervision. The case became a major example in discussions about juvenile justice reform. At the time, many legal analysts considered Lionel Tate's sentence one of the harshest ever imposed on a juvenile offender in the modern American history, making the case a landmark in discussions about juvenile sentencing. Robert Thompson and John Venables, 1993. When two 10-year-old boys walked out of a shopping center with a toddler in 1993, nobody could have imagined what would happen next. The crime that followed would horrify Britain, dominate headlines around the world, and forever change the debate about whether children can truly understand the consequences of murder. Robert Thompson and John Venables were both 10 years old and lived in the Liverpool area of England. They came from troubled backgrounds and were classmates. At the time of the crime, they were among the youngest people convicted of murder in modern British history. On February 12, 1993, they encountered 2-year-old James Bulger at the New Strand shopping center in Bootle, Merseyside. Security cameras captured the boys leading James away from the shopping center. After taking him several miles from the shopping center, they killed him. The case shocked Britain and attracted worldwide media attention because of the ages of both the victim and the perpetrators. CCTV footage became a crucial piece of evidence. The image of James being led away by the hand became one of the most recognizable crime images in British history. Police received hundreds of tips after releasing the footage. Thompson and Venables were arrested and charged shortly afterward. In 2001, after serving about 8 years, both were released. They were given new identities and lifelong anonymity to protect them from vigilante attacks. This remains one of the most controversial decisions in British legal history. Craig Price, United States. Most serial killers begin their crimes as adults. Craig Price was different. At just 13 years old, he committed a murder that left investigators searching for a dangerous adult predator. What police eventually discovered was far more disturbing. The killer was a teenager living in the very community they were trying to protect. Craig Price is often considered one of the youngest serial killers in American history. His case shocked investigators because of both the number of victims and his age when the crimes occurred. Craig Price was born in 1973 and grew up in Rhode Island. Friends and neighbors generally described him as a normal teenager. Behind that appearance, however, investigators later discovered a pattern of increasingly violent crimes. At age 13, Price killed 27-year-old Rebecca Spencer in Warwick, Rhode Island. The crime initially remained unsolved. Police had no idea the killer was a middle school-age boy. 2 years later, at age 15, Price murdered Joan Heaton and her 2 daughters, Jennifer and Melissa Heaton. The murders shocked the local community because of their brutality. Detectives launched one of the largest investigations in Rhode Island history. Investigators eventually focused on Price after receiving information from local youths. During questioning, he confessed. Police were stunned to learn that a teenager had committed all 4 murders. Because he was a juvenile, Rhode Island law limited the maximum punishment available. He was sentenced through the juvenile justice system rather than receiving multiple life sentences. The case sparked outrage among many residents who felt the law was not equipped to handle crimes of that severity. While in custody, Price continued to have legal troubles involving threats and violent behavior. Because of those offenses, he spent far longer incarcerated than many people originally expected under juvenile sentencing laws. When Craig Price confessed, many investigators reportedly struggled to reconcile his age with the brutality of the crimes. The case became a major example cited in debates about whether certain juvenile offenders should face adult punishments. Amarjeet Sada, India, 2000s. Imagine being so young that you're still learning basic reading and writing skills, yet police are investigating you for murder. In a rural village in India, one case would leave investigators stunned and eventually earn worldwide attention. The story of Amarjeet Sada remains one of the most controversial and unsettling juvenile crime cases ever reported. Amarjeet Sada is frequently described in media reports as one of the youngest alleged serial killers ever documented. However, it's important to note that many details of the case come from media accounts rather than extensive publicly available court records, so some claims should be presented carefully. Amarjeet Sada was born in Bihar, India. Reports claim he committed multiple murders while still a young child. He reportedly came from a poor, rural family. According to police and media reports, Sada allegedly killed a younger family member when he was very young. Family members reportedly did not immediately involve authorities. He was later accused of killing another infant relative. Again, reports suggest the incident received little official attention at first. In 2007, authorities accused Sada of killing a 6-month-old infant from a neighboring family. This incident led to a formal police investigation. Police questioned Sada after inconsistencies emerged in witness statements. Reports claim he admitted involvement during questioning. Investigators were reportedly shocked by his age and his apparent lack of emotion when discussing the crimes. Because he was a juvenile under Indian law, he could not be tried as an adult. He was reportedly sent to a juvenile rehabilitation facility rather than prison. The focus of the legal process was rehabilitation rather than punishment. One reason the case became internationally famous is that many reports describe Sada as being younger than almost any other known serial killer, making his age the central focus of media coverage around the world. The cases on today's list continue to raise questions that experts still debate today. How can someone so young commit such terrible crimes? Is it the environment they grow up in, mental illness, or something we still don't fully understand? Whatever the answer may be, these stories remain among the most disturbing juvenile crime cases ever recorded. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads. And before you go, ask yourself this: which case shocked you the most? Leave your answer in the comments below.